Okay, thank you so much. Welcome, Ritwa, on our podcast. And it's pleasure to have you as being. We have been connecting for long, and
Yes.
finally, we got an opportunity to meet face to face.
Mm.
At least, COVID has made everybody to meet like this. So, and we are so far. You are in Finland, and as we were just discussing that, you are my first person, first contact from Finland.
Mm.
So
Okay. Yeah.
it'll be great to hear about data from so far Finland, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So just for our audience, please to introduce yourself, and so our audience can come to know about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So hi everybody. My name is Ritva Aula, and reason I'm here sitting with Mustafa is my love about data. So I currently work in OP Financial Group. It's a Finnish largest bank in Finland if we count out Nordea, and I'm this kind of currently data and regulation lead specialist, and then I'm also heading a design authority function for a big data regulation program.
Okay.
And yeah, and I got um, I don't know if you were about to ask it, but why I kind of speak so much about data. It started already 20 years ago when I was actually more leading financial management processes like accounting, reporting, and taxation and that kind of things. But when I moved to the heading the legal reporting in Finland in a large Finnish bank, and then I actually started the journey towards the data world. But yeah, but
So
it's
so,
really yeah. Sorry.
so you are in banking sector now, is it?
I'm back in banking sector. So I
Back
have
in
been in yeah. So I have been first years I was in real estate, and then I was in banking, and then I was in Nokia. Do you know? You know
yeah,
the Nokia
yeah,
phones?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
We all
yes.
know that.
Yeah. So unfortunately not so popular anymore. But yeah. But I was working there for 7 years in
Uh,
Nokia, and then went back to Nordea, which is the largest Nordic bank, meaning there is a Sweden and Norway and Denmark and Finland, which have joined forces into a large bank. And then I was a consultant for 4.5 years, this kind of a principal data advisor, and now I'm back in OP then for 1 year. Yeah.
so this thing is a government entity, is it?
Sorry.
Is it a government entity where you are right now?
No, it's this kind of cooperative bank. So it's a large banking group, which is not as it's kind of owned by the member banks, but it's very large in Finland. So
Ah.
it's not government, but I'm making sure that we interpret the regulations correctly, and then we do the right things, because banks are more or less about data. If you think about it,
Yes,
they don't
yes.
really have products. Maybe gold, these kind of big things are in the cellars, but otherwise it's all about data. So that's why it's so
Ah,
interesting.
so it means it's a body which connects all banking, and your department is something focus on data, regulatories, and all those things
Mm, yeah.
for all bankings to follow. Something
Yeah,
like
all banks within the OP Financial Group, not the whole Finland, but
okay.
within OP Financial Group. But it's a
Ah,
it's a still large. So
okay,
not government role, but rather this kind of a corporate role, banking side. Yeah, yeah.
okay. And you are leading their BCBS 239 Design Authority. What is that? Tell us about that one.
Yeah, yeah. So BCPS 239 is something that came to the banking floor, banking world. It was you maybe know about the financial crisis in 2007, 2008, and 9. And
Yes.
and the Basel Committee, then it's a banking supervisor. They started to investigate why things went wrong, and then one big reason was that the data was and the IT infrastructure and the information architecture, they were not properly built, so that sometimes important knowledge for decision makers was lost because the architecture and data was not treated properly. And the whole crisis came as a surprise to the decision makers. So that's why this PCPS 239 paper was issued in 2013. And then it has things like data governance, or it has things like metadata management, it has things like architecture, taxonomies, it has data quality and all that stuff. And then it also has the thing that the top management must lead this topic, not so that it's IT or vendors who are taking care of it.
Yeah, since these penalties comes into picture, I would say top management start looking into it, right?
Yeah. And now I go to very detail, but European Central Bank has also got a bit nervous because banks are not progressing fast enough. In Europe either. So they haven't taken everything seriously. And they have now, so they published last spring this kind of ECB guide on risk data aggregation and reporting. I can give you a link about it, but that's rather easy to read document. So this original Basel paper, if you Google PCPS 239, it can be difficult for some, but then this ECB guide is quite clear. It quite clearly tells what needs to be done. And I think it applies also to other data intensive industries if one would want to read those.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, Basel 3 is already there, right? Or Basel 4? I think
Basel 4 is now kind of, there are these CRR3 and other things that are now being implemented and so on.
Yeah. So actually, I'm enjoying discussion with you actually. So,
hopefully I'm talking too much, but
yeah. So I will go further in detail. We will come to data asset management because that is a very technical term. But I still want to more know about yourself. You mentioned 20 years back you jump into data, right?
Yes.
Did I hear
Yes.
it? So now when you say 20 years back, yeah.
Okay, I could tell you the journey. So when I was started to lead this legal reporting, there was a new requirement from European Central Bank that whenever somebody wants to change their interest rate, it needs to be treated as a new loan. Do you follow that? If you already had a loan, but you wanted to change the interest rate, then European Central Bank wanted to see that as a new loan, like it's reading it. So we needed to go to the bank branches and talk to IT and a lot of things in order for us to get the data keyed in properly by the branch offices and then how to get it in. So that was the first thing. Then I was leading one of the persons leading the moving to IFRS. Do you know the International Financial Reporting Standards?
I heard about that.
Yeah. So that was something that the bank needed to move to that, and I was there, one of the key people, and we read the requirements, and it said that legal and management reporting needs to be based on the same data. And back then, it was often so that the accounting was here and then the management reporting was elsewhere, and the data didn't match.
Oh, okay.
Because it was treated differently through different routes. So then back in 2044, we said, okay, something like this data warehouse would need to be done, like that you have the basic data there, and then I was. This is now too long story, but then I was asked to go and help in building this kind of parallel reporting solution, and I worked with a DV person, and then there was certain requirements, and I remembered, okay, we have really good master data hierarchies in our department, we could use it, and then it was really quick. I noticed, oh wow, now this programmer was able to establish those views very well because we had the master data. Okay. And so on. So then I went to Nokia data warehouses. Then I had some business information modeling and that kind of thing. So all the time next discipline. And then I went back to Nordea and I got this data governance that
Yeah,
I
I
would
was
need
about
to.
to come
Yeah,
there. So
yeah,
your whole journey, I think, helped
yeah,
you
yeah.
go into data governance, right?
Exactly,
Because
exactly.
you
Yeah. So
end up
it
knowing,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So every time I was starting from the use case, but then going to the data practitioner areas, and then the data governance started to be something that we need to actually be very close to business and
yeah.
get the buy-in and so on. So that's my my sort of route.
So
Yeah.
it's an awesome journey, right? Because a lot of people have different kind of journeys. And when I meet a lot of people, most people has come from only from management angle or
Mm,
from sales angle. But you have come where you really needed a requirement. You wanted to implement something and you could not find a way. And suddenly
mm,
you got into that, okay, master data, which is part of a governance. And that is, so you really understand what data governance is. And I think that is why you have also selected this subject, which is data asset
mm,
management,
mm.
because
Yes, and I kind of, now that we have there is more and more data, and everybody wants to democratize it, which is good. But one thing is that we start to have data everywhere, and if people are not really having catalogs or metadata, or if they don't do certain things, then it's total mess. And in the banks, which have long contracts, it is something that is even more critical thing that
yeah,
we kind of learn to reduce the number of data so that it doesn't kind of explode and you don't really are in control of it. Yeah.
yeah. Actually, you have brought a very good point, right? Data democratization.
Mm, yeah.
People want to go towards federated approach. So actually, I was a big fan of centralized approach
Mm,
till last 3 4 years.
mm,
Because when we talk about data warehousing, it is centralized data warehousing. It
mm,
is the selling point is single source of truth, which is very good. We all love that. But the challenges started coming in as the more data and data start coming
mm.
in.
Yeah.
Data privacy, all those
Mm,
data ownership start coming in, right? When
yeah.
those start coming in, technologies were technologies, data culture,
Mm,
infrastructure, all were not ready to bring
exactly. Yeah.
everything at one place and have
Mm,
the ownership in place. Technology
mm,
was not ready. Then
mm.
suddenly 4 5
And
years,
people were not really
people were not ready.
ready. Yeah. Yeah.
Mostly people were not ready. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I talk nowadays about the hybrid model. I don't want to
Yes.
have the I don't want to have the central fully centralized, but I don't want to have, at least in the banks, it's not possible to have fully federated, because in
So
order you federate, you need to have some central practices that are followed.
so okay, I am loving this discussion again.
You
You
are opposing me now, are you?
no, I'm
Yeah,
not. I
yeah,
am
yeah.
absolutely not.
Okay.
You must have seen my post on DAS architecture, which has coined
Mm,
myself, right? I was working
mm,
on it 5 years, right? In DAS architecture, actually, it's a federated, mostly federated,
mm,
but in federated, there's enterprise piece as well, and there are business pieces as well.
mm. Yes, exactly.
So my theory also says that you cannot live without enterprise. Enterprise
Mm,
has to be there. It has to be a hybrid model.
yeah.
It cannot be centralized one and federated. It cannot be zero and one.
Yeah.
Both have to live together. And then
Yes.
people are a little bit, correct me if I'm wrong, people are also confused about enterprise word. People think enterprise, they mix enterprise with ODS, operational data store. They think you build an enterprise warehouse or lake house or data lake house,
Mm,
whatever,
mm,
and whole world can hit that. So I
mm,
told them, no, enterprise means for enterprise decisions.
mm. Yes.
Enterprise decisions are not taken by data analysts or business analysts or department heads. No, enterprise decisions are top management. So
Yes.
that
Yes.
enterprise lakehouse or warehouse or data store, whatever you want to call it, that is for enterprise decision. That will still remain there.
Yeah. Exactly. And this is a very topical discussion with architects and with some data practitioners, or also that some who are kind of think that AI can solve everything.
Ah,
I mean, But there are people who kind of think that, okay, I now hire 100 data scientists, but they don't hire the people who are then their data engineers or the other data people who would then make sure that the data that is fed in is somewhat usable.
High
So
quality, yeah.
yeah, I was talking about this we currently speak a lot about harmonized data products, which means the enterprise.
Yes.
Yeah. So we in our language we talk about those a lot, and then those are sometimes difficult for certain people to understand that if we, for example, in bank have, like we often have some older loan systems, for example, there can be more than one, and they are from different technical vendors, so their language is not the same.
Yes.
And we have to somewhere join them to harmonized view, because management is not interested in one system's loans, which are also only partial. I mean, top management, they are interested to see the whole thing and slice and dice to the
Absolutely.
meaningful sets. Yeah.
Yeah. So my discussion is going towards data asset management. Don't worry about it. I'm
It
not
doesn't. It
into
doesn't have to.
that. No, no, I
But
will
I
come.
just yeah.
No, no, I will come because
Yeah.
that's one
Yeah.
of the biggest conceptually or misconception around a lot of management, a lot of people, that data asset management is something you create a product, that's a asset management. So there are
Mm.
different angles where I look into it. So talking on to the same thing which where we are saying when we say hybrid, in hybrid we have a federated as well as enterprise. So as we discussed,
Yes.
enterprise is for enterprise decisions. There data ownership is normally not a problem because top management is looking into everything, so it's not a problem. When you go into federated, in federated approach, every LOB or maybe every entity within a bigger organization can have their own lake houses. But the moment you go to the next level, that is where when you create department level, a portfolio level lake houses, that is where data mesh start coming in, right? And if you go further down to that to create a product, that is where data product comes in. So all can be data product, but data product is
Exactly.
something which solve one of your key problem. That's a product. You buy a mobile, it's a product for you. It fix your problem. You can connect to the people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's a
so
kind of a use case that
yes.
can be
So
directly used for
yes.
something.
So
Yes. Yeah.
so in your home, you have a mobile, you have an internet, you have maybe landline, you have TV, a lot of social media. All those cannot become one product. No,
Yeah.
everything has separate product, right? So
Yeah.
now let me correlate this question with data asset management, right?
Mm.
So when we talk about these data product concepts, so asset is also there, right? And asset we all know which is valuable to the organization in certain ways. It can save your OPEX, it can generate value, it can save you from getting penalized by regulatory bodies. So let's talk about what is data asset management for our audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I actually am. This is not a scientific
Hmm.
definition for me, but we have used because our intention is to make the different data products or data assets or local, whatever they are, we need to make them work together so that we
Hmm.
understand that, because sometimes the data is born here and then you combine something to it and then you refine it further.
Hmm.
So we really need to, in the bank, we need to understand it across. So we have chosen to use data asset as a top term. Like a product is also a data asset in that sense, that
Absolutely.
you need to do same things for it in order if it's valuable and it's used by many and it needs to be well quality managed and so on. So we are not, because if one person thinks that data product is, for example, something you do in the cloud, but we are saying that the data asset management is an umbrella
Correct.
by which you can manage all kinds of data products or data assets and make depending on the criticality, you have higher data asset management standards, or if it's something that you are not needing for so many different purposes, you can then do minimum, like having the privacy thing sorted out, or some limited documentation also. So do you get it, that I'm not actually let's say I don't use it in the scientific mean, the data asset management. To me, it's a mentality that you actually you need to have certain processes in place, certain roles in place, and you need to make sure that it works well together with other similar things.
Absolutely, I agree on that one. And let me coin one more thing, which is getting very famous nowadays, which is strategy ops. So I think you should also look into this. What is this strategy ops? In our group, you must have noticed there's a guy from France, Nicolas. He has come up with this term, which is an absolutely stunning for me, and that is what I think, which will exactly, absolutely match with your this umbrella kind of data asset management. Under strategy ops, he has come up with one of his tool. So UEYOI, right? This strategy ops will do in every organization. We know there are data initiatives, there are AI initiatives, and as per Gartner, 75% projects goes on shelf actually.
Exactly.
75%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is where I think you are also saying that all those 100% projects are all under the umbrella of data asset management. You have to
Yes.
manage those, right?
Yeah.
Now, whether those from idea till normally we look into traditionally we look from idea till go production, but the cycle doesn't complete there.
Yeah.
After production, there has to be adoption,
Yes,
and value
exactly.
ROI driven adoption has to be there. So this strategy ops covers that end to end cycle actually. That
Yeah.
from idea business comes, hey, I want to have this AI implementation and I will generate, let's say, a million, $1 million a year. Now they go to solution architects and products and hey, how much it will take to build it? People will say, let's say 3 million. So it means you have to divide this 3 million into 3 years, 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, and 3 years your ROI will come out. But story doesn't complete there, because after that, from fourth year onwards, your adaptability should be good enough that 1 million a year should keep coming for many years.
Yeah.
That's the
And if you
cycle.
and if you then you should always improve it so that you get potentially
Absolutely.
even. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I don't know if you, and now I'm not talking about my current employer, but I'm talking in general, that I see a lot of these things that people have they have an idea that is in a PowerPoint, and it's kind of looks shiny and so on, and then they, for I don't know how they get the money to start doing it, and then they kind of, as you said, it goes to shelf or they fail. And very often they face data problems that they didn't consider upfront at all. So that's one thing also, that you would, whenever I would be doing something new, I would always do a first sanity check that, okay, what data I do need for this purpose? Where do I get it? Do I need to build something new, and so on, so that you would understand it. But I see, I don't know why, but if I compare to the, I don't want to go back at all to waterfall, no, but I think that sometimes there is illusion that things just happen.
Actually, you have brought another very interesting, very near to my heart when you say waterfall, right?
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
going towards agile, right? Everything is agile nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
But to be very fair, to be very open, I am not a big fan of agile in data world.
Yeah.
Because,
Same here.
ah,
Same here, in a certain way, that I kind of think about, for example, data documentation, metadata, things like that. Then some people have interpreted agile that way, that you don't do any documentation, you
yeah,
just do things. And
agile
I
is
in the
really
data,
hurting. Yeah,
yeah, and that was not the original meaning of agile,
correct.
but people translate it in and if there are no controls that you really do things properly, then you don't do. And then then I think that if I have been talking to our people that in software development you can be independent, but with data you are almost never independent because you always need from somebody data, and
Correct.
most often you are delivering to somebody else.
Yeah.
So there you would need to collaborate, and you would need to
Absolutely. See, I give an example of a building, right? You're creating a building, a mall, right? Your basement can never be agile. After the basement is
yeah.
built, once you have floors, that is where you can be agile. You can create a hall, you can create a mall, shops, you can create a gym, whatever you can do. But basement can never be agile, right? Same
Yeah,
goes for
exactly.
data. When
Yeah.
you're integrating, when you are doing data governance, when you are creating data models, you cannot be agile.
Mm.
The biggest challenge I see here is, along with big company names, I can't name it because this will go
Mm.
and I will
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
unhappy. They come
Yeah.
and they say, hey, based on the agile methodology, they say, let's not do the impact analysis upfront. Let's go into sprint zero, sprint one, and then let's do it. And
Yeah.
as we go into sprints, let's keep defining the data model. I said, shit, you cannot do
Yeah.
that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also something that in this BCBS 239, we must bring this kind of impact analysis to the front. So when you have the idea, you would need to do it. And that's something that
Absolutely.
regulator insists on doing. And it is very difficult for those who then think that, okay, let's do everything later. But data work normally takes so long time, and you can run with big problems if you haven't thought it earlier. So you
Absolutely.
actually spend much more time if you didn't do it upfront. So
Absolutely. Actually, in my DAS, even my DAS architecture, there are a few
mm,
mandatory things. The integration hub, where data comes in, there has to be one
mm,
door.
mm.
When it goes out, there has to be virtualized layer. It has to be one door to go out. Metadata is a mandatory in my DAS architecture. You cannot live without metadata.
Yeah,
Simple as that.
yeah. I also, when I did the data governance for this previous bank I was working, then I really started to understand and with the BC distribution, I started to understand the meaning of the metadata. And after that, I thought that, okay, now everybody will start doing it because it so makes sense and it makes everything so much faster. And you can even later automate things based on the metadata. But
Absolutely.
it's something that people talk mainly about the catalogs that harvest the data, but they don't talk about that we need to embed business meaning and on top of the technically harvested metadata. I don't know if you follow me, but that
Yeah,
is something
absolutely.
in the what without understanding what the data really is, it's you are guessing
No,
basically. Of course,
I can
yeah,
give
yeah.
you exact examples actually. Very
Mm,
basic example. Primary key, foreign key.
mm,
If you pull data from source system, if you do not have a primary key defined there, and if you want to dig out CDC data, which is change data capture,
mm,
if you have the primary key, your processing power will be 1%. If you
mm,
don't have a primary key defined, your processing power will be more than 100 times.
yeah.
The big
It's amazing
impact,
impact.
basic impact
Mm,
when you're pulling a table from the source system. And there are
mm,
many other things,
mm.
data
Yes.
lineage, and especially since the era of unstructured data. See, structured data, the beauty of structured data is you already know what you're punching in. You have a
Mm,
data model set there.
mm.
But
Yes.
once unstructured data is coming and you don't have a metadata, you
Mm.
don't even know what you're doing it, right? And
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
is where
Yes.
this Gen AI comes, and everybody thinks you throw data into Gen AI and it will do a voila magic and everything comes out. And you must have noticed right around the globe
Mm.
so many failures of Gen AI coming in
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this chat GPT was never, as my last podcast was with Bill Inman, right?
Mm.
He
Mm.
clearly
Yeah.
mentioned that
Yeah. Okay.
this chat GPT use case was not for commercial use. It
Mm.
was never meant for a commercial use, right?
Yeah.
But people end up doing that, right? So coming back to this data asset management,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So when what we are saying is when we do this data asset management, we are saying data governance is something which is really latching onto this piece and making it implement. So let's also discuss about this data mesh concepts coming in and all those data products. How you differentiate at for a management who try to implement this thing. How you want people to look into this angle?
Yeah. When I'm now in the bank, so in the banks, you have often more stricter requirements for the data than in some other areas. So then one could argue that it's yeah, but what we and I also for many years now we want to kind of get the governance is not only the updating the data or anything, it's prioritizing the data, it's getting the owners and stewards and getting the architecture part piece working well together and a business involved. So in a way, how we think it that whether it's a data product that somebody calls data product, the final thing that somebody can use, or whether it's a asset, that kind of asset that you are using it for many purposes, you would always need to have minimum things in place. So there would need to be owner who is responsible for that. Then they would need to have the metadata, meaning the documentation in place. They would need to have the understanding of what are the quality requirements, and they should have a processes that the data quality is assured. Ideally, of course, where the data is born, but anyway, you need to have these things that you assure quality, and you have users know how good the quality is, and then you have the privacy and security things. So having these basic data management disciplines implemented for different data assets or data products. And of course, when you do something experimental, or if you do something that not many are using, you can have less kind of disciplined way of working. But if you think about for example, the cloud, that if you just have everybody are doing data products without documenting them somehow into the common, that you can know what kind of products there are, and you don't have the marketplace and so on, then suddenly your costs even are growing enormously when it costs money to have a lot of data products that you are just using the power and so on. But not, I don't know how many plans those things that they understand that when they thought that data warehousing was expensive, it is expensive to have all kinds of data that you are not necessarily even using at some point. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, absolutely right. When you say it's costly because 75% project goes on shelf. And out of
Yes.
75% projects, 90% nobody dares to close because someone came in. People don't know whether if they close it, what is the retention policy? Will audit come then check with us? We do a compliance or not? So all those 75% projects are what you can say liability for 25 project, which is valuable, right? So until unless you don't have this again, uh, again this strategy ops, which will give a complete visibility of all data and AI initiative in an organization, which it will really tell you, hey, how many projects are really generating positive value, how many are generating negative value, and how many you can really shut down, how many you can reuse. So those will really become important. Okay, let me throw one more question, right? Because when we talk about data governance and you are from the regulatory side, right? So this question just popped up. So don't mind if it is tough for you. If you don't want to answer, don't answer.
Yeah, depends. Yeah.
Yeah. So see, we know Basel, right? We say, hey, these are the standards every organization or banking should follow.
Yeah.
Why, as a regulatory bodies, we are reluctant to declare data governance or metadata as mandatory?
Well, no, I think it's coming, but it has been slow. For example, now this I heard that, I'm not sure about the country, whether it was Switzerland or something, where you even get penalty of I'm not sure about the country. You get penalty that if you don't have data owner for certain. So it, and then there has been like you did you see the Citibank case where
Yes, I
they
was
got
about to
like
refer that. I was about to.
okay yeah, but they got, and then I know that in Denmark the Danske Bank, they got also quite serious remarks about, and their chief data officer was kind of
Yeah.
yeah. So I think now European Central Bank has tightened its kind of guidance. So this ECB guide of risk data aggregation and risk reporting, that already talks about metadata, so that they say that data lineage must be done, and they say that the data documentation definition must be done, and so on. So they already list those things, and they are following up that banks are doing it. But it hasn't been mandatory, and this BCBS 239, which was from Basel Committee, it was not necessarily binding in all the countries. But now those who are under European Central Bank, then if haven't earlier done it, now they do it. But Germany, I think, is very strict. Austria, so there are countries where it's more strict than in others.
Okay. So let me throw another relevant question with respect to data owners, right? Because when we go into the organization and share your experience, right? Because all these decision makers or data owners are the one who drive this whole thing into their organization. What challenge? Because and we all know that 90%, correct me if I'm wrong, 90% plus data owners are not data background people. They are not data culture or data, though they're from
Practitioners,
that.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which kind of challenges you feel, and what's your suggestion, or what do you think? I'm a big fan of that.
This is tricky because this is something that, by the way, this BCBS 239, it requires that the board of directors or senior management, that they are enough skilled and trained. So you should even have this kind of fit and proper in the banking, that if you have the senior management, that there would be also people with these skills. So that's something. But it is true, it's very difficult topic to explain that why you need to do this to business people. Then some people understand it because they have some background and good examples can be given, and maybe something that, okay, we can show clearly that this is a failure that cost this much. So then some understand, but typically it takes time, and there would need to be people in the organization who facilitate and spar and train those people so that they would start looking things differently. And somehow this ROI thing you were talking about, the strategic ops, somehow that should be also in there, that you could really show the impact to the decision. Then they start getting interesting. If somebody said that your AI thing didn't succeed because of bad data, then their interest, or their customers are shouting and because the customer data is not correct or something like that. But it's really difficult, and I have encountered it many times that that sometimes the top leaders even and data owners, they would need personal coach. So that they would really, I mean, it's not rocket science, but if you have never looked under the hood what is happening, if you have never thought that typically data you use, it comes from somewhere, and data you create, it goes somewhere. So you have never thought the dependencies, and then you even don't know that if you are asked to do things well, but you are not the one who's getting benefits, that's also very difficult for many. Why should I invest in this? I'm not getting. So you should do, like in climate change, you should do things for common good. So it's really, I must say that there is no silver bullet, but
Yes.
it's challenging and shouldn't be underestimated because in regulated areas like banks, you really need to make sure it happens, that the leaders start to and are doing the thing. They understand the data, and they. So I'm happy in our organization that has immensely improved and so on.
So I can throw
But
another
yeah,
question
yeah,
on top of it.
yeah.
Can training see, because when talk about leaders are people who are at least have 20 plus years or
Mm,
25
mm.
plus years experience. They are coming mostly from the application background or sometimes sales,
Or
sometimes.
in the business, yeah,
Oh,
business
yeah,
background,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Can few data trainings make them capable enough to understand this, or you really need data background people to at least be there in the advisory board somewhere, not a decision maker, that's
Yeah.
fine, but as an advisory they need to be there.
Yeah, I think definitely, and I would recommend in the nowadays when there is everything is when I started my working career 40 years ago almost. So then we had one integration, and even Excels were not yet there, and now there is so much data. So every leader should understand basics of data, and they should have in the boards they should have some people who can advise them with this matter, because sometimes they do decisions that are not wise because they decide on what they see, but they don't decide what should happen on the background.
Was
So
under the hood. Under
yeah,
the hood,
exactly.
they can't presume, they don't even
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
what is there. I
Yeah,
give you an
yeah.
example, right? Nowadays, one of the most famous use case around the, at least people I am talking about, is
Mm,
throw structured data into LLM.
yeah.
Throw structured data or whatever data into LLM and it will produce results.
Mm,
That's not possible. That's not simply it's not possible. Does not even make sense. A person who has done a data modeling little bit can understand it's not put. But as the decision makers are sitting there, someone came and throw some unstructured data into it, which is text XYZ, and throw into
mm,
LLM. It makes sense. They are sold. Now everybody comes and start throwing structured data into it. And these guys
mm,
have seen one use case,
mm.
but try to implement all other use cases under the same hood. It's not going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah. And that is the dilemma, that AI is cool and the tools are cool, and the leaders go to these seminars where somebody shows them, and then they say that I want one of those, but then necessarily they don't understand, okay, that in our company we have this and that kind of problems that wouldn't make it happen. So that typically they don't yet see that, okay, it's quite much more other things you need to do in order to succeed. And that's the and unfortunately, then the data practitioners, because data governance is not kind of something everybody wants. Now there is more actually pull than earlier, but it's something that every time these shiny objects go,
Yeah.
they go ahead of it. And even if you would be wise to have basic understanding and basic structures in the company. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I look the career and not necessarily talking about my current employer, then of course I've seen this, and then I've also and there the basic understanding of the what is under the hood. For example, certain use case or KPI or whatever, and I'm not sure if you asked this, but it normally requires a lot of different kind of data, and in order to get that to support the use case and get it really working, like also not only a kind of pilot or something, then that normally is really tricky. And I would like to have like this kind of high again using the word hybrid, but I would like to have that if there is very valuable use case, then we would always systematically look what kind of data it is about.
Hmm.
And then when the next comes, we would always look what did we already have and start building the
Absolutely.
kind of mechanism. Because if everybody runs after different use cases and start building them with their own silos, then suddenly it's mess. So
Since
it's a
you
mess. Yeah.
use the word of silo, I was in a
Yeah.
discussion the other day with some guys. We were discussing about silos, dark data, and all those kind of stuff, right? So
Mm,
the discussion went into a very, very interesting angle, right? We were discussing that last time all OLTP systems were into silos because they
mm,
could not talk to each other. But now, unfortunately now, and actually before we go into that one, OLAP come into picture to bring everything into one place,
mm.
right? Now, unfortunately, our OLAPs become silos. You have so many data marts, data warehouse,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
data
yeah, yeah.
NAG,
Yeah, exactly.
lake house, all sitting here and there. So you have instead of you finish, you cut down silos from source, but you created silos over here, and
Yeah.
all architecture are sitting separately. Data architecture cannot talk to AI architecture or the vice versa. And you know, one of the biggest challenge nowadays is data is not ready for AI, right?
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
ready.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I would like to touch that architecture part. That but I say that where has it gone that, for example, data content architecture would impact to the technical development? I mean, IT and solution architecture,
Hmm.
and vice versa. I have seen places where these people call themselves enterprise architects, but they are more mainly looking the technical parts. They have, I don't know if you can see it in other countries, but
Absolutely, I'm with you.
yeah, okay,
I'm
okay,
with
but
you.
yeah, yeah, and that surprises me because if you don't look it from data perspective or capability slash process perspective, how can you really
Yeah.
do
See,
it? Yeah.
again, data architecture, architects, for me is an umbrella.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
not, it's not a role, it's an umbrella for me. Under enterprise architect, there are application architects. In fact, there are business architects, application
Should be.
architects. That should
Should
be
be.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Application architects, technical architects, and data architects. All
Mm.
architects go under the umbrella of enterprise architecture. You
Should
are
go.
absolutely,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, you are absolutely right. Nowadays, enterprise architects are working technical architects.
Or is it sort of global? It is then globally happening because I wasn't sure about it, even if in my Nokia times and Tietoevry times and Nordea times we worked, but now I'm working in the Finnish
Uh,
OP Finance is in Finland, so I have lost the visibility. And is
it's
this happening
everywhere.
also everywhere?
I
Yeah,
can tell you, everywhere,
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
That because see, enterprise for me, enterprise architects are the one who had the blueprint.
Mm,
When you say blueprint, blueprint contains everything from
yes.
business to data delivery. The
Mm,
whole thing has to be there, but
yeah.
it's not there. I'm seeing these challenges everywhere actually.
Yeah. And that then, I mean, also I think, how do you see? I need to ask from you now that sometimes we talk about naming conventions when you do the data development,
Mm.
and is this do you follow me, that is this in many cases? I think it's now when everything is federated, then it's difficult to get people following certain naming conventions, but it's rather maybe solved with mappings and with metadata and that kind of
Yes, yes,
things.
yes.
Or how is it? How do you see that? Or do you
Yeah,
understand even what I'm asking?
yeah, I
Yeah.
got your point actually. Last time, what we used to do is we used to have a naming convention
Mm,
in at table level or a database level or a
mm,
system level as well.
mm,
It is there as well, but I'm not a big fan of that. I am a big
mm,
fan of creating a auto-generated value
mm.
and keep the name in the metadata. Now there's a
Yeah,
question.
I'm with you also
Ah,
with
so
that, but
now the question
because
is,
yeah, yeah,
I can give
yeah,
you an example
yeah.
because a lot of businesses, when you tell them, hey, this is your service, like
Mm-hmm.
this is your database, installation is yours. Tomorrow, someone else comes into it, and when someone else comes into it, and they say, hey, we are more powerful.
Mm,
Now you change the name of this thing with my department name. I've
mm,
seen this real example. Now, what we have to
yeah.
do it? Can you believe that we had to shut down that instance? We have to spin up a new instance. We have to do the
Okay.
migration because
Okay.
naming
Oh. Oh.
convention was not there.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
But
I,
I Yeah, I'm good that you say that, because I also have, in some of the regulatory papers, regulator talks about naming conventions, like in the BCPS 239. But we have said that we are not, we want to solve it with metadata. So we are not.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, good.
Because-
So I will refer to you if somebody asks.
No,
Mustafa told me that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't
because
make.
I've solved one of your problem. Okay, so
Yeah.
now coming, so time check. We are already around
Yeah.
50
Yeah.
minutes, so
Yeah.
we will wind up in 5 6 minutes. So okay, I think most of the questions we have covered, but one obvious question, let me throw as the last question, then we can have some casual catch up as well. People, culture, and strategy.
Well, that's the, and that's what came to me after the data governance. Is the, and then I thought, oh, I should have studied psychology and sales. Because the culture is that, because that's the way how you think, how you do things. That is the one that only can make this thing. So it doesn't come with that you have a data owner or steward doing certain things, but we need to really change the perception about the data, that it because it should represent real life things. People think data is technical, it's IT or it's the vendor thing, and information is something important. They don't understand that, hey, the data is in the technology, in the manufacturing industry, you talk already about digital twins, but I'm thinking as a kind of illustration that it's the real world things that are now expressed in form of data, and therefore we really should sort of pay attention to it.
Yeah, nowadays even kids knows what is AI. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
My 9 years old kid is using ChatGPT. Can you believe that? Right?
No, but that's great. Yeah, my children are already 20 something, so
Yeah.
so they are using, but
So
yeah.
we can see that where data is going in next 5 years, and we have to be, I think, very careful that AI. I always say AI is a superstar nowadays. Fine, but end of the day, data. So okay. Let me quote one example I used to give all my students last time as well. I always used to say there is two kind of IT. There is consumer IT and there is corporate IT. Consumer IT can be application, can be mobile application, anything can be front end. But corporate IT for me is data. So data will not die. Like I and you are talking about, right? This will never die.
Yeah.
Assume if I and you cannot understand each other. The data will never die. And whatever we are talking, on Zoom, what they are doing is there's a big use case going on. Zoom have a lot of AI chat. Right now, Zoom must be generating a chat at backend.
Yeah.
They are doing a tax analytics on it. That who are you? Who am I? Which kind of podcast we are doing it?
Yeah,
And the
exactly.
ads will start.
Unfortunately. So, yeah. But one thing that you did you say IT? Because I've tried to get people to think about data separate from IT. I have wanted them to think about that if you build a tool but it doesn't have data in it, and so all, like this water example, that we have a lake called Päijänne, and when I take water from the tap in Finland, we can drink it directly and it's perfect quality and so on. So everybody understands that somebody is making some cleaning activities for the data, and a lot of things happens before, and we can trust we can drink it. But it's the water that is the data, and the pipes and the quality
IT. That
actions,
is
and those
IT.
they are sort of the IT. So I want to, when I talk with my business stakeholders, and I want to make them think about, what is the real life information I need, and if they have a metric or KPI, what does it consist of? What makes it, and so on. So I just,
okay.
when it's put under IT, then I fear that many think it's technical, it's business people, that it's not so interesting. So
No, actually, last time we used to call IT as a separate. Okay, let me change my phrase. For me, IT is information technology. I
yes.
take it very basic. So
Mm.
everything which is automated for me is an IT. It's
Yeah.
not, I'm not referring that IT which you are referring. I'm just
Yeah.
ecosystem or ITs. That's what I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But the people and business are part of it
yeah,
in my world. So
yeah, yeah.
because often we use third party vendors, and
Hmm.
if you are not careful that you are on the driver's seat with the data, then it's something you are giving your valuables with
It
to
is
be
happening.
taken care with somebody else, and you don't even understand it. So
It
that I hate with these cases where you are, for example, implementing ERP, this kind of SAP, for example, that
hmm.
those people, they are often concentrating on the actual, that functional capability, but then how this big machine is what kind of data it brings to the organization and how
Hmm.
it works together with it, that then sometimes is not it's neglected from those
Yeah,
programs only to minimum. So
yeah.
there I just
Thank you,
yeah
Ritu. It was pleasure talking to you. I think we have done a big thing to explaining this data asset management, which has touch base to strategy ops as well as data mesh as well as data products. And thanks for sharing all your knowledge and especially your experience because your experience is very amazing. You last started 20 years back into this journey and you really solved the problem. And now you are making the processes for banking sectors in certain banking group of banks to adopt those. So, how was your experience? Any concluding remarks?
No, it was first of all, it was thank you for that you invited me. I have always followed you, as we know, in LinkedIn,
Thank you.
and it was valuable discussion. I got something for me as well, so it was
Oh,
really
thank you.
a rewarding discussion, and
Thank
and,
you.
and looking forward
It was pleasure.
to keeping in contact and so on. So
Yeah. So
data is important and should be not be treated only as a technical thing. So that's my
now
my sort
data
of
is no
yeah.
technique. Data is without data you can't live. You
Yeah.
never could,
Okay.
but now everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. See you
Bye
again.
bye.
Take care.
You
Bye
see
bye.
you. Bye bye.